The Reserve Bank of New Zealand has delivered its biggest ever rate rise as it continues efforts to bring inflation down. Joining me now live is Chief Market Strategist at InvestSMART, Evan Lucas. Evan, good morning. They're now forecasting a recession in 2023. Could that happen here?
So the interesting thing about this all, Danica, is what was coming out from Adrian Orr, the head of the bank over there in New Zealand, is that he very clearly says that inflation is intrinsically ingrained in the New Zealand economy. And why I compare it to Australia is that inflation over in New Zealand is at 7.1%. It's expected to be at 7.75% here in Australia by the end of the year. So they are on a path that is much, much harder, much, much stricter than we are. And there is lessons to be taken here, is that the RBA could go down this path. I mean, they're currently suggesting they're not, but what New Zealand is pointing out very clearly is that the inflation problem is so part and parcel with their economy and so part and parcel with their overall population that they have to do something to get it back to their target range, which is 1 to 3%. Our range is 2 to 3%. So it's a long way away from that. And what Adrian Orr is forecasting, as he said, is a recession in 2023 for all 4 quarters, not just 2 quarters of negative growth. He believes that every quarter next year will be some form of contraction. Now, he is saying it's shallow. That's a hard thing to argue, considering that he believes the cash rate in New Zealand will get to 5.5%. The rule of thumb is that you add 2% to that. That means New Zealanders will be paying at a minimum 7.5% on their mortgages, more likely 8 to 8.5% on the mortgage they have. And New Zealand has the 4th highest indebted nation out there with housing. And the housing, for instance, in Auckland is actually the richest in the world if you look at it per mortgage to income. So they are likely to feel a much harder impact than what he is currently forecasting, but agree they're going to have a very tough time next year. And the RBA has to be watched on this. They could do the same thing.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And as you said, it raises questions for Australia. Where could rates end up by the time the RBA finishes actually raising them? And could they cut rates next year?
So the cut rate question is coming thick and fast. What I would say to that is, look, it's a possibility. If it was going to happen, it would be about this time next year, so November or December meeting. The catch with it, if it was a cut, it would be small, like 0.25 of 1%, maybe. Where the rate gets to, that is the bigger question. And if you listen to, at the moment now, the OECD believes that the cash rate will get to 3.6%. That's below what most of the major banks here in Australia think. They think it's going to get to 4%. Some people even forecasting it to get to 4.2%. Whatever it is, what we know is that the RBA at the moment is going through a very slow period. So they are slowing down. But that doesn't mean stopping. And what the argument is that they could actually raise rates every meeting all the way through to June next year to get towards that 4% or even 4.25%. So it's a slow and steady burn, and it's almost a death by 1,000 cuts, is some people's argument, is that why not go hard, go early, rather than prolong this? And their argument is, again, the inflation psychology. If they want it to be front and centre, that you need to understand that your rates are going to rise continuously until inflation gets into some form of line, and we're a long way away from that. So we will get a rate rise next week. It's likely we'll get a rate rise the first meeting next year, which is in February, and it could be every meeting after that as well, Danica.
All right, let's just quickly turn to the markets. Is the current rally that started in October sustainable, or is this a false dawn?
So my argument to this is what we've just discussed, is around rates. It's the belief that rates are going to start to ease off, but easing doesn't mean slowing. And all of the recession talk is yet to actually come to fruition. We know it's coming, but it hasn't actually hit there. And that's the argument, is that earnings next year will probably be hit. We're already seeing that. You look at consumer confidence, you then look at places like FedEx, you look at places like UPS and Amazon. They're already laying off workers before Christmas. So earnings, therefore, are what's likely to come through. The recession is likely to come through. In our view, this unfortunately feels like a bear market rally rather than anything sustainable. And the start of next year could be quite rocky indeed.